been close to 3 years since I've last uploaded on this channel, but here recently, I can truly say that I've missed making videos. I went back and watched a few of my videos and I've realized how much fun I had making them, and how much I liked making content. To be completely truthful and transparent, I got burnt out at some point along the way, and some other things took priority in my life over making videos. In the time since I last uploaded a video, I've gone back to what truly made me a racing fan to start: short track racing. I've always loved it, and always kept up with it and stayed in the news. But I believe now, more than ever, I've fell back in love with local short tracks and late model stock cars. Over the last couple of years, late model stocks have risen back to prominence, arguably being just as popular as super late models in some regions. With the ownership group of Justin Marks, Jeff Burton, Kevin Harvick, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. purchasing the car store, late model racing is on the rise. And last Saturday, the Tour kicked off their season at Southern National Motorsports Park, with Mike Hopkins winning the Pro Late Model feature and Deke McCaskill winning in the late model stocks. While the Cars Tour season opener went off without a hitch, the same can't be said for what happened at Hickory Motor Speedway a couple hours later.
Keep arguing. I don't know how the fuck they can make a rule.
Why are they not telling us that? Why didn't an official come down there and tell us? Put the son bitch on the trailer. Now, I've got sponsors and shit to race for. Like, I can't just stop the shit. Let me go out here and run 20 laps then. I'm racing. Get the car on the trailer.
Looks like they're having an adult discussion down there for sure.
I've got sponsors and fans and people that come out here every Saturday night and support. My crew works for nothing. We bust our ass, and to not get a chance to race when the car is ready because of a made-up rule that wasn't enforced or stated in the driver's meeting is just unfortunate.
The day started off almost like every other race night. Practice went on like normal. Teams selected tires, the drivers' meeting, etc. Now, as much as I would love to give a bit of info on every driver that raced on this night, I'll mainly be focusing on two: Doug Barnes Jr. and Landon Huffman. Let's look at AirDoug first. Now, if you're wondering why I'm referring to him by his nickname, AirDoug, well, just take a look. I'll leave a link in the description to Doug's video explaining more of the story behind what led up to this moment. He's got a damn good YouTube channel, and I highly recommend not only checking out some of his videos, but subscribing to him as well. Without getting too hung up on the AirDoug nickname, he's a stud behind the wheel of a race car. He's a regular at Dominion Raceway, where he's pretty familiar with their victory lane. He also dominated the 2023 Icebreaker at Florence. Not only that, he swept the twin 40-lap features in the opening night of Hickory just a couple weeks ago. The kid is no slouch by any means, and could be a potential national title contender this year. That leads us to the Claremont kid, Landon Huffman. The son of multi-time Hickory track champion and 5-time NASCAR Goodies Dash Series champion Robert Huffman, Landon is the defending Hickory track champion. He has an excellent YouTube channel where he highlights the behind-the-scenes efforts of his race team, winning races and staying competitive while being on a tighter budget compared to the larger and better funded teams. He also now has sponsorship from Dale Jr.'s High Rock Vodka, along with High Rock being the official spirit of Hickory Motor Speedway. In my eyes, Landon embodies the true grit of short track racing, never giving up in the face of adversity and triumphing when the deck is stacked against you. As I suggested with Barnes, please consider checking out his YouTube channel and also subscribing. Now that I've given a bit of context, let's move on to qualifying. Doug Barnes would set fast time and put it on the pole, while Cade Brown would start second. Landon would qualify 12th out of 16 cars. Granted, there was a massive crash during Hickory's opening night that did a lot of damage to Huffman's car, so coming into today, they're admittedly behind the 8 ball. Hickory runs twin 40-lap features for late models, with normally a top 10 invert for the second race, and starting 12th, it puts him in a potentially good position for an invert. When the green flag flew, it unfortunately didn't take long for trouble to strike. On lap 2, Brown and Barnes would crash on the backstretch. Huffman would be a victim of a chain reaction and couldn't get slowed down in time. Unfortunately, the car is junked for the second race night in a row. Barnes comes in and his team tries to fix the damage, but the ductwork is completely killed. After 3 laps of running under green, the car is spitting out water and he's unable to continue for the rest of the first twin. Landon and his crew try to fix the car to get back out on the track, but the lap 2 caution is the lone caution of the race, and they run out of time. The teams of Barnes, Huffman, and Brown all thrash to get their cars fixed to run the second feature. 4 other divisions have their races. Then roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours later, they all line up for the second Twin 40. Because they all finished at or near the back due to the early crash, they were ineligible for the top 10 field invert. Barnes, Brown, and Huffman are all on the grid for the second feature. Then they fire the engines. Now, here's where shit hits the fan.
Why are they not telling us that? Why didn't an official come down there and tell us?
What are we doing?
Oh, I'll tell you if it matters. Hold on. They're trying to say that we can only start parts.
What? Why? We fucking wrecked. What are we supposed to do?
So you might as well pull it to trailer.
Keep arguing. I don't know how the fuck they can make a rule.
Nobody told us. Say it in the driver's meeting either. If they would have said it in the driver's meeting or had an official come down there and tell us that, then it's different. They didn't. There was nothing said. We're making rules of it.
Barnes, Brown, and Huffman are told they can't race. They're given the option to either go out, run a lap, and not advance position, and park it to receive last place points and prize money, or they can simply load it on the trailer. Want to know the reason why they can't race? Well, apparently Hickory has a quote-unquote unwritten rule, where you must run 20 race laps on sticker tires in the first Twin 40 lapper to be able to run those tires in the second twin. Since the surface at Hickory is so abrasive, this would give a possible advantage for someone with fresher tires compared to someone who ran the full 40 laps. For instance, if you have a flat tire on lap 30 and you come in to change it and put a different tire on and get back out and finish the race, you can't run that tire in the second feature. You'll have to go to the tire shed and pick out a scuffed tire. In the case of Barnes, Brown, and Huffman, they would all need to put on 4 scuffed tires each because their tires had less than 20 laps on them. Now, if that was in the rulebook or mentioned in the driver's meeting, I believe the story would end here. However, I think you know by now that it doesn't. While Cade Brown elects to start and park, Barnes and Huffman are having none of it. Robert tells Landon on the radio to load it on the trailer, but Landon and his crew are going to let it be known that they are not going to let this slide. Huffman and his crew plead their case with the pace car driver and official, Randy Summerland. Barnes pulls his car to his trailer, and he lets his argument be known as well. They feel the rule was not mentioned in the driver's meeting, and it's not an official rule in the rule book. No official came and informed them that they would need to get tires from the shed. No mention of this rule until this very moment. And Randy Summerland admitted that he did not state this rule in the driver's meeting. And Scott Walker, the race director, did not mention it either. Now, Doug and Landon both want Kevin Piercy, the general manager of the track, to come out of his suite and discuss this issue further. Kevin refused and informed the cops to remove them away from the pace car to get the race going. The officials then tell the drivers that one member of each team will come to the office and have a meeting with Kevin and the officials. The representatives of the team will be the drivers. I'm now going to play a clip from the latest Huffman Racing Radio podcast, so this can be heard in Landon's own words.
So after all this happened, I went up to the office and I got to sit down with Kevin. When we were walking in, I was told no electronics, no recording devices, nothing of that nature in the meeting, which obviously they're doing this to save face, because if I record it, then they can't back themselves out of it in a Facebook post or anything of that nature. So clearly it was damage control. Doesn't surprise me. So I walk in here, and in my meeting is me, track promoter Kevin Piercy, Randy Summerland, Scott Walker, so the 2 men in charge of race directing, and 2 cops, and Skip, which is the marketing guy at the track, and manages and works his ass off to do a lot of different things. And Kevin basically said that this was supposedly a rule that they created because of past happenings where people wrecked early and had fresh tires and came back through the field. So I said, well, is it written down? He said, well, no, it's not written down, but it was mentioned in the driver's meeting. I said, no, it wasn't. And then again, I asked Scott and Randy to their face if you mentioned this in the driver's meeting today. No, they did not. Okay. I said, so Kevin, you've got a unwritten rule that you claim you have made. That's not on paper. It's not in a rule book. you have your race director and your chief steward saying that they didn't mention it in the driver's meeting, which was our only instruction and interaction with the officials all day when it comes to rules. And you didn't allow us to race. So essentially, you created a rule that wasn't in a rule book, wasn't mentioned to us, wasn't enforced, and then decided to enforce it while we were on the grid ready to race. He didn't like me pointing out those specific, details about the night. And he proceeded to tell me that, well, because I've been in previous drivers' meetings, I should know. So I was like, okay, well, that makes zero sense. And then I said a few other things that he didn't like. I felt like we were having a conversation. I probably raised my voice a little bit, but, nobody was out of control. I just felt like I made my statement, and clearly the track was in the wrong, and he didn't know how to cover it up. What he should have done is come down there and found a resolution, talk to me, Doug Barnes, our teams face-to-face, either let us run 20 laps, which would have took a total of about 6 minutes, or let us draw out of the tire shed, something. Give us an opportunity to race. And I said, it's on the track. The track has to do better.
Now, as you heard, management and officials admitted to Landon that they did not mention the rule in the driver's meeting, nor is it mentioned in the rule book. However, when Doug Barnes had his meeting with the officials, they told him that it was mentioned in the driver's meeting. Matter of fact, Randy Summerland, the same driver of the pace car that said it wasn't mentioned, has now changed his story. Doug does vaguely remember a mention of this rule for Hickory's Fall Brawl late model event. But as Doug will go on to say, how are you going to take rules for a 150 lap race and apply it to a twin 40 format? Now, Doug's conversation was rather tame compared to Landon's, as Doug believed that he could have not heard the rule being brought up, because he admittedly was not really paying that much attention during the driver's meeting. But he did happen to have a camera recording said driver's meeting. Now, I've watched this video 3 times. I can't find any mention of the rule. Doug can't find any mention of the rule. Nobody can, and nobody will, because there isn't one. By now, the word has got out about the controversy at Hickory, and it's safe to say that this is pretty big in the short track racing landscape. Then, Hickory releases their official statement. Hickory Motor Speedway management would like to take a moment to address the situation which occurred in the second NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series Late Model Stock Car event. Hickory Motor Speedway has always worked hard to provide a level playing field for all of our competitors. During the first event for the late model stock cars, we had 3 that were in a second lap incident and did not complete the event. Unfortunately, this situation would give these cars an advantage of much fresher tires for the second event. With the abrasive surface of a track like Hickory Motor Speedway, this advantage can be quite substantial. The drivers' meetings are intended to go over any individual particulars for each event, including, but not limited to, sponsors, fuel, tires, etc. This tire situation, which occurred on Saturday, has been addressed in these drivers' meetings and prior drivers' meetings for years. The competitors in late model twin events are told if they do not complete 20 laps of the first event, their tires will not be eligible for the second event. This would also apply for a flat or cut tire before 20 laps are complete. The solution for this issue is the competitor is expected to purchase scuffed tires for 1 or more tires based on how many tires did not make it 20 laps, which would help to equal the tire situation with all of the other competitors. Although Hickory Motor Speedway officials could have reiterated the rule to these teams, it does not take away the responsibility of the teams to know and understand the rules, whether conveyed in the rulebook or at the drivers' meeting. Since the 3 teams outside of the 20-lap minimum tire rule were not in compliance, our decision Saturday night was to allow all 3 teams to start and receive last place points and monies. However, they would not be able to advance their positions with the tire advantage. One team elected to take advantage and start, while the other 2 teams elected not to start. Hickory Motor Speedway will continue to provide a level playing field for all of our competitors and make a better effort to communicate to the teams that fall outside of the 20-lap minimum rule in the first event. Hickory Motor Speedway management would like to apologize to all of our workers, fans, sponsors, and competitors for allowing our event to be held up for 30 minutes prior to the start. That will not be tolerated for any future events. Sincerely, Kevin Piercy, General Manager, Hickory Motor Speedway. Following the release of their statement, an An article from Short Track Scene was shortly released thereafter. Huffman and Barnes would both be quoted in the article. Landon would go on to say, "First of all, typical Kevin Piercy, evasive on the issue and not taking responsibility for his actions. It's 100% the track's fault for not clearly stating the rules and procedures. I understand the concept. I get it. New tires have an advantage. But we were in a crash in the first race. If we were approached with some kind of rule, I would have done whatever it took to race, especially after doing everything we had to do to repair our car. There is no such rule in the rule book, and no such word was said about it in the driver's meeting." Now, here we are. It's 11:49 p.m., March 13th, and I'm still dumbfounded on this. Not so much the rule or even the lack of transparency, it's the lack of responsibility. In Kevin Piercy and Hickory Motor Speedway's statement, I find zero accountability, just finger pointing and placing the blame on the drivers. Now don't get me wrong, I respect track promoters. I respect the amount of time and effort that are required to be put into a racetrack in order for it to not only be successful, but for it to run smoothly. Whether it be dirt or asphalt, big or small, the amount of dedication it takes to operate a racetrack is admirable. And I don't want to take anything away from racetrack promoters across the nation. But as a diehard fan of short track racing, it pains me to see these issues happening. I still love Hickory Motor Speedway. I want Hickory Motor Speedway to flourish. But things like this will prevent that from ever happening. I hope this rule will be black and white from this point forward, because these types of unwritten rules have zero place in racing. And with that, I'll end it here. Thank you all for watching. I'm Jesse King, and I'll see y'all around.